discuss about identities and governance, okay, which is all about Microsoft Entra ID. So earlier, you might have heard about the term Azure Active Directory, which is a cloud version of Active Directory from Microsoft, and they have rebranded Microsoft, Microsoft Azure Active Directory to Microsoft Entra ID because that acts as a entrance point for many of the identity requirements from cloud. So when it comes to identity and access management, there are two portions, right? And access management. So the identity portion is where we go and create the identities and then give them relevant access and get them authenticated to the devices or the system. So this is where we have the authentication, and access management is all about role-based access control, nothing but your access management part. So identity, it can be anything that could be authenticated. It is mainly to create a security boundary on the resources, applications, and the products that we manage. So anything that could be authenticated can be categorized at could be authenticated, can be considered as an identity. And authorization is actually verifying what level of permissions they have got, what kind of activities that they can perform with the privileges that they have been enabled in that particular organization or an application or specific device. So authentication is mainly to verify the credentials that we are using. Okay, so what kind of credentials we are entering, whether we are entering the right password or whether we are entering the right one-time password, or whether we are supplying the right certificate and credentials and keys. So this is mainly a process of establishing the identity of a person. So it establishes whether the user is who they say they are. Okay, if they are entering wrong credentials, then they might be trying to enter without proper access, right? So it establishes the identity of the particular individual. Sometimes it might be a service account. It might be used for like backup or monitoring or patching. So the identity can be for either individual person, or it can also be sometimes for a managed identity where it will be used for a service account. On the premises, we call it as service account. Here in the cloud, we call it as service principal or managed identity. So yeah, with identity, we have this user account, which could be used, or we can also use this service account category. We can call it as service principal or managed identity in Microsoft Azure terminology. Okay, so I will just have that. So this is mainly for the applications or the services to have some credentials, and we can use that for a particular service or an application. So now coming to authentication, the authentication has evolved a lot, and there is a lot of different type of authentication that there are currently being used. You know about MFA, the multi-factor authentication, which means like earlier when we enter the username and password, we can log into many of the systems, right? Something the user knows. So that is something you know, right? So maybe it might be your password or some kind of one-time password or credentials like the secret key. So you can use that particular security question and you can log in. Then there came a category called something the user has. So you might have heard about the Gemalto token, or the physical token that they used to give, or nowadays like we are using mobile app to log into authenticator like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator or Okta integration, through which we receive a one-time password and we enter the code and we log in. So earlier, like a few years back, we used to just have this Gemalto token. They are the primary manufacturers of that particular physical key. You might have seen it if you are not used, at least you might have seen it. So you have to just press that and it will generate a one-time password. And there used to be only one provider, Gemalto, earlier, but I think now there is one more provider called SafeNet. They are also manufacturing it, but at the end, it is a physical token, a physical device that you can either insert into your laptop, or you can just press that key for generating that token and you can log in. This is something the user has, or something the user actually possess in their hand. Like it can be mobile phone, or it can be a Gemalto token, or they can actually insert the USB token into the laptop for logging in. So there is another category, something you are nowadays, like even in mobile phones, you can have the hand palm or fingerprint, or even eye scan or face scan. So there is a lot of new methodology where it is asking us to prove that something you are the right person to log into that particular device. So multi-factor authentication is now the trend. So the even normal mobile phones, and even in online email system, messaging systems, they are asking for us to log in and authenticate using multi-factor authentication. Even any banking sector you go, you have to enter multiple different questions. You have to answer the security question, or certificate has to be selected, or secret key has to be entered. And nowadays the identity has evolved, and they are enforcing multi-factor authentication in many of the systems. Coming to the authorization, so this is mainly to deal with what level of permissions we have, what level of privileges that they have enabled. So RBAC, role-based access control, is what generally we follow. And then we also have options to go and enable the least privilege access model. So we should not provide complete access at the beginning, and then if you are removing that access, it might not look good. So you have to provide minimal access to start with, and then based on the job description, job responsibility, based on their role, they will have certain tasks to be done. So you can go and get the roles assigned or the access provided based on their responsibility at their job level or their job role. So you can enforce this. So there are options where we can go and enable fine-grained access policies, so through which you can control what they can access and what kind of permissions and control they possess in that particular organization. So identity is an object that can be authenticated. So it's a thing, it's the object. You can create a user account, or you can create a service account, and using which you can go and log in. And it has some additional data stored in the platform, right? Here in Microsoft Entra ID, the identity will have associated password, secret keys, security questions, and so on. It will be stored here. And when you go and create a Microsoft account for working with Azure or Microsoft 365, the very first thing we get is a Microsoft Entra tenant. Okay, so that is the very first thing that gets created. So Microsoft tenant is what gets created when you go and create an identity with Microsoft Azure or any online services. So for any online Microsoft services, it can be your Azure or Microsoft 365 or Dynamics 365. So you will get a Microsoft Entra tenant created. This is where the identities get stored. So identities get stored inside that tenant, and that is where the permissions, the policies, the access could be managed. So you can also use a kind of home account, I mean like personal account, or else you can use it account which is provided by your organization. So work account or school account can be used for creating a Microsoft Entra tenant, and that in turn gets created as a Microsoft Entra tenant. So it also has a directory, that is where all the relevant information that pertains to your dedicated organization gets stored for the specific account, and you can use that for enabling access to the subscriptions, or even you can enable access to specific resources within your Azure platform. So now coming to the user account. So user account, you can have the accounts created directly in Microsoft Entra, or you can also do a directory synchronization. Okay, let me just creating some separate tabs for that. So Microsoft Entra user. Okay, before I go into users, groups, and other stuff, let me give you some more information around what we are talking about, and we can get inside that. So Microsoft Entra ID, earlier it was known as Azure Active Directory, AAD, and this is a cloud version of directory where you can go and store all the objects related to your organization. Here the objects refers to users, groups, and then the systems, the servers, computers, printers, and all those things. Whatever you create as an object in Active Directory, they can be stored in the database. So this is a cloud version of Active Directory, and you can use it for authenticating not only on-premises application, even you can use this Entra ID to provide access to SaaS applications, the online devices, and you can also have external identities integrated, like you can integrate with Workday or Concur or any online SaaS application. So Entra ID works a little different from your from your Windows Server Active Directory. So Windows Server Active Directory has been there in the environment for more than 25 years now. So they are slightly different. So the protocol that we use in Microsoft Windows Server AD is kind of slightly different from what we are using in the cloud. So cloud does not support the identities like Kerberos authentication or NTLM or the what you call the NetBIOS, Sysvolve, Active Directory Federation services. So these were the traditional protocols that were used in the premises. So maybe I will just give you some comparison here. That way you can relate what I'm talking about. If you are having existing Windows Server AD knowledge, so this can help you to kind of understand how cloud system is different from on-premises. So on premises, so we call it as Windows Server Active Directory, right? Windows Server AD, because we have to create a Windows server and then we promote or we deploy additional role as a Active Directory domain services. So there are many different subdivisions within Active Directory. You know that Active Directory has got domain services, so we call it as ADDS. And there are other services like Active Directory certificate services, where you store all the certificates. And then you also have Active Directory rights management services, where you store all the rights, credentials related to your email and all those things. And also we have lightweight directory services. We also have Active Directory Federation services. So on these areas, we are talking mainly about the domain services. So the objects pertaining to a particular domain can be stored in a particular centralized database, and that's what we use it for, providing access and providing the individual identities to individual users and then get them authenticated. So AD domain services is what we will install on Windows Server AD, and that once after you install the domain services, the AD domain services role, that particular system is generally promoted with a role called domain controller. So that's what we use it for, controlling that particular Active Directory database, and also it allows authentication and the control for your systems in the network. And the protocol that we used on the premises, like for authentication, we used to have the Kerberos protocol, and before Kerberos we used to have this NTLM, and there were token-based options prior to that. But this is what is used for maintaining the confidentiality and integrity before. And for authorization, we used to have the NetBIOS. That is what used to be the protocol for behind framework behind authorization. And for federation, we used to have this Active Directory Federation services that was used earlier. And we used to have the scripts, policies, and all these stuffs maintained in something called Sysvolve, system volume. And we used to have the server message block for anything that you want to push via the network on the premises via the LAN. So we use this server message block protocol to apply the policies or to enforce some scripts and executions. So we will be using the SMB protocol to share some files or policies across the network. And for directory access, we used to have this Active Directory, the LDAP protocol, lightweight directory protocol for the on-premises. On the cloud, these protocols cannot be used. Okay, so instead of these protocols, what can be used on the cloud is like, for example, for authentication, they use open source protocols like OpenID Connect or SAML based authentication, and they also use Graph API for some of the access activities. So SAML, Security Assertion Markup Language, OpenID Connect. So these are the authentication protocol that can work over the WAN network. So for the LAN network, for the intranet, so this is more than sufficient. The domain controllers and these protocol can work very much. But these protocols, Microsoft is still trying to make them work on the internet. So they don't work on the internet. For the WAN access, for the WAN based authentication over the public internet, so they are using the protocols like SAML, OpenID Connect, Graph API, and so on. And for authorization, they are using OAuth, the tool that they use for online internet-based authorization. And for federation, they are using WS Federation, which is a similar tool for the cloud stuff. And for any access or anything that you want to push, there are some APIs and REST APIs, RESTful APIs that will be used. And if you want to have some policies and stuff, you can use HTTP or HTTPS for enforcing some standards and policies over the network. So on the premises, it is SMB. Cloud uses HTTP or HTTPS protocol. So here, the Microsoft Entra works using these protocol, unlike your on-premises. So there is a complete different set of framework and protocols that works behind the cloud identity. So this is the on-premises LAN identity system, LAN identity manager. Whereas on the cloud, Microsoft Entra is the cloud IAM tool. Okay, it's built for the public internet and for Microsoft Azure and online software as a service application. So there are two options that you can do. Okay, so this Windows Server Active Directory can be deployed on physical server on your premises, and you can have it on your VMware VM on premises. And even if you want to have full control and the infrastructure as a service model, you can also go and create something on Azure VM. So you can have on the premises, as well as you can have something similar on the Azure VM. So that way you can also have it as an infrastructure as a service, where you have full control on the OS, the scripts, the policies, group policies, and so on. So if you want to have full control on the OS, full control on you want to have full control on the AD environment, the group policy, and so on. So you can just have this Azure VM hosting the Windows Server AD, DNS services, policies, settings, and so on. Okay, this is a pretty much equivalent of domain controllers, what you have on the local intranet, and you can have it on an Azure VM. So AD server in Azure VM, that's what I'm talking about here. So Active Directory, domain controller, data entry domain services, the domain controller on Azure VM. Okay, and you can also have one more version. So if you don't want to take the overhead of managing the OS, AD database, AD related settings, policies, schema, and all those things, if you don't want to have control on those areas, what you can do is you can go for one more version that is called Microsoft Entra Domain Services. So this is a PaaS offering, Microsoft Entra Domain Services. So this is a PaaS offering where you can have control on. You can have control on what you don't have control on OS, no control on OS, no control on AD database, but you can have control on the synchronization and control on AD database. You have control on synchronization and so on. And also you can add as many number of control on synchronization, control on the number of domain controller you want to have, and only the operating system and the underlying AD database is taken care by Microsoft team, and almost you have full control on the AD related activities. Full control on AD activities. So if you want to do some creation of OU, or if you want to apply some policies for certain OU and all those things, you have the same kind of options available. So only thing is AD administration has to be done using remote management tools. You will not get access, no access directly on the domain controllers. Okay, you can access the AD services via the remote tools like Active Directory Administrative Center or Active Directory Domain Centrist, Active Directory Users and Computers. So you can use that AD utilities to access the Active Directory related services from remote MMC console, Microsoft Management Console, and you can manage the Active Directory related activities remotely. So here in Microsoft Entra, it is identity as a service. So it's completely, it's software as a service concept. So where you get identity as a service. So this is Active Directory as a service, AD as a service. Okay, any questions so far on the comparison here? So there are 4 options that you can do. You can continue to run your Windows server on your premises, on your physical server or VMware. You can also have the VM running on Azure VM, where you have infrastructure as a service. You have full control on the OS, AD database, AD schema, AD related activities. You can have full control on the FSMO roles and the full control on group policy, DNS. So there is a lot of options that you can control. More control, if you want, you can go with infrastructure as a service. But if you just want to manage the AD and the related activities from remotely, you can go for Microsoft Entra Domain Services, which is platform as a service offering. But if you just want identities to manage the access and manage the authentication, you can just go for Microsoft Entra ID. So now there will be a question, why we need this Microsoft Entra Domain Services or Azure VM having those traditional Windows Server Active Directory concept or Active Directory Domain Services, right? So Active Directory Domain Services, there are certain applications which are having dependency with Kerberos and NetBIOS. For example, if you are having a web server, right, running Microsoft IAS, so they work based on Kerberos and the NetBIOS. If you have a database hosted on Microsoft SQL, so then they also have that. And if you have some failover clusters, like for Windows file servers or for database servers or whatever, so for those failover clusters, you also have dependency on those traditional protocol, the intranet protocol. And similarly, if you have on-premises SharePoint servers, not the Microsoft 365 one, the on-premises Exchange server or on-premises SharePoint server, if you are migrating those systems to cloud, you still need on-premises Windows Server AD kind of solution, which you can either get it from Windows Microsoft Entra DS or Azure VM having the Active Directory Domain Services. So these are all applications which are dependent on Active Directory Domain Services. So it can be a Microsoft Microsoft Entra Domain Services, or it can be Azure VM having Active Directory Domain Services role on a VM, or it can be on-premises system still continuing to be accessed. So there are many different systems like this, any .NET application that you are using, and if you are using some utility tools like ACCM or Microsoft Endpoint Management, SCOM, ACDM, SCDPM, like System Center Data Protection Manager. So the complete System Center suite, right? The Configuration Manager, Operations Manager, Data Protection Manager, and all these tools are dependent on your Active Directory Domain Services. So now the tool has changed to Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager, right? So ACCM is now upgraded to MECM. And similarly, we have this WSUS server and all those stuff, which are still having dependency on Active Directory Domain Services. So if you are migrating those utility systems or applications or databases to Microsoft Azure Cloud, then you need a system which can understand the authentication and authorization request via Kerberos and NetBIOS, and you can have either an Azure VM having that particular Active Directory Domain Services, or you can also have it on Microsoft Entra Domain Services. Okay, so if you need to have full control from the permission aspect, so if you want to manage all these things, you know that there is something called enterprise admin, and you also have domain admins and schema admins. So all those administrative access will still be with you if you are using Azure VM based Active Directory domain services. But if you're going for Microsoft Entra domain services, you get limited access. You won't have full access to the schema. You won't have full access to the domain. You will have limited access to perform certain application registration or certain systems registration and so on. So it might not be fully available, but many customers are able to fulfill majority of their requirement using Microsoft Entra domain services. So there are two cloud-based variant that are available, which you need to be aware of. So any questions so far on the comparison? Yeah, taking a step back, see before all these Active Directory concepts came into picture, okay, we used to have separate identity for each and everything, right? For printers, separate identity, for server, separate identity, for desktop, separate identity, and if you want to access some application, you'll have various different elements, various different credentials to access the resources on the network, like computers, users, printers, applications, and so on. But after Active Directory has been implemented, Active Directory have started acting as a centralized source of information for all the credentials. So you can have one single credential to access all the systems that are registered in Active Directory. So that way the single sign-on has started helping you after Active Directory has come into play. But before Active Directory was there, you have to have separate identities, separate username and password for each and every different systems on the network. So this is mainly providing you single sign-on, centralized cloud-based directory and identity management, and through which you can access the resources within your Azure platform. You can also access the resources which are part of your Microsoft 365 like Teams or SharePoint or Exchange Online. You can also access some SaaS application like Concur or Workday or Salesforce. You can provide access to internal resources within your corporate network, and you can also use the identity and access management solution for providing access to some internet-based SaaS applications also. So this is going to be a cloud native or cloud-based directory and cloud-based identity and management service through which you can pretty much cover all the controls. Okay, so we already discussed about the difference in the protocol that we have for authentication and authorization between the on-premises and the cloud. So there are certain concepts that you need to be aware of when we talk about Microsoft Entra ID. This is primarily a tool for identity and access management, and you get single sign-on options through which you can have single credentials used for accessing your VMs, your databases, your Azure functions, containers, and so on. And you can also enable additional layers of credentials and security, such as password, biometrics, or one-time code using your Authenticator app. And you can also enforce multi-factor authentication. We'll also see how to enforce it. And there are many different benefits that you get. So it's pretty much simplified when it comes to governance, management.
Third party as well, right? Third party.
Yeah. You can pretty much integrate with your third party services like Concur or GoToMeeting or Dropbox or Webex, Salesforce. So it pretty much works with third party cloud applications, yes. And even you can bring in your on-premises Windows Server Active Directory identities to Entra ID, and through which you can also provide access to the online systems like Microsoft Cloud applications and the third-party application. So I will give you a demo on how to synchronize the on-premises identities with Microsoft Entra ID, and from there on how to provide access based on their role. So it's pretty much simplified, and you have the best of scalability. You can keep creating as many number of identities you want, but there is a hard limit, but it is beyond our reach. So definitely it suits even enterprise organization. There are multiple different varieties or licenses that are available for Microsoft Entra ID. So we'll get to understand what are the different licenses that are available. So let me show you. Yeah, these are the licenses that are available. If you are going with the free edition, the free tier supports only 5 lakh directory object, but the premium P1 and premium P2, you can have unlimited number of users, groups, and directory objects that you want to store, and you can register multiple application. And the single sign-on also, it supports unlimited even in the free edition and the P1 and P2. So the core identity and access management, business to business collaboration can be done using free. But if you need premium features, like if you want to integrate for your 365 applications, and if you want to have hybrid identities from your on-premises, and if you want to have advanced group management like dynamic addition, or if you want to provide conditional access for a particular from a particular PC or a particular IP range and so on, you can go for premium P1 license. But for P2, you get much better identity protection and governance, the PIM, the privileged identity management, privileged access management, those kind of advanced protection and governance will be available in premium P2. Okay, so we already talked about Windows Server AD, which is the traditional hierarchical database on the premises where you have option to go and extend the schema, and it works like a multi-master. You can have multiple domain controllers acting as a primary and backup. Some people call it as additional domain controllers. So it is highly available, and it uses the traditional protocols like the Browse, LDAP, and the NTLM. And it also uses the traditional standards like LDAP and stuff. So we already talked about the licenses. Yeah, there is one more thing. So there is a limitation for the number of users for the application when it comes to the free and basic tier. But for premium, you get all of them. Okay, so you get unlimited. So if you want to do some branding and other stuffs, yeah, I think you have to go for the basic edition. With premium, you get almost all of them. So with P1 and P2, you get a lot of high availability. There is no SLA commitment for free tier because it is free of charge, and they don't provide you any SLA commitment. And multi-factor authentication, self-service group management, self-service password reset. If you want to allow the individual users to reset their password automatically, then you have to go for premium. And if you're changing the password on the on the cloud in Microsoft Entra ID, and if you want to write back those password changes to your on-premises, then that option is also available only on premium edition. So if you want to have synchronization of your password on the cloud and on the premises, then you get that only in the premium option. It is not available in your basic option. Okay, let me show you some demo, and then we'll come to what is the multi-factor authentication and those things. So let me quickly log into the portal here quickly. Sharing my screen again. So you can go and search for Entra ID, and you get this Microsoft Entra ID. For anyone who has created an account in Azure or Microsoft 365, you will get a default directory created, and this is where you go and have all the users, groups, and applications registered to the directory. So when you're going and creating the users, there are multiple ways of creating the users. One, you can go and create a user here, like you can just have a domain. Let's say I want to create something like this, and then can do it. And in organizations, if you have multiple domains registered, you can have all those domains listed here. So in order to add a domain, what you have to do is you have to go to the custom domain here, and then you can go and purchase the different domains that you want. In your organization also, you might have more than one domain. So if you look at here, I have already verified the purchase domain that I have got. So these domains are already purchased, and in order to verify a domain, so it asks for a text record, and you have to go and add that. Let's say I want to add skills.com, and when you add that domain, it will provide us a particular record. That record can be text record or MX record. So this value you have to go and add it in your provider's DNS service, the text record or the MX record, and that way you can verify that particular domain and you can start using it. So that's how I have verified all these domains, and you can make whichever option as a default. For example, if I want to make this one as a default, I can just select that and make it as a primary one. So the primary one will be automatically listed when you are going and creating the users. So many organizations will have many domains listed. So when you're going and creating the user, whatever the listing comes is coming from the custom domain, and it will only list the verify and validated domain names from that particular list. Okay, you can just go and create users directly here, and you can also auto generate the password if you want. Okay, let me copy to the clipboard. Okay, and I can also copy this credential, use user principal name, UPN. And if you want to reset the password, I think the very first time it will generally ask for the reset. And if you want to create this user as a member user or a guest user, you can just select whether it is a guest or a local user here. You can also add additional details about their email address, the age group, usage location, city, and then the employment related details. You can go and capture as much as information. And if you want to add them to a particular group or provide them a role based on their job description, you can also go and add a role. I'll show you how to add the role and permissions later. So you can create this ID. So once after you create this ID, you can just directly go and start using them in any of the Microsoft Online requirement. Let's say I'm just trying to log into portal.azure.com. Okay, I can just go and use this credential. The very first time it is definitely going to ask me to reset the password. Okay, first time it is always a mandatory practice that it will ensure that we are resetting the password. I can just go and change something here so that way the credential is slightly different from what was generated automatically. I can just go and reset it and then I can sign up. Okay, so now I have option to go and defer the multi-factor authentication for some more time. I know you guys know how to add Microsoft Authenticator app or Google Authenticator or any authenticator app from your mobile can be used to have the multi-factor authentication enabled, and you can defer it for 2 weeks. And I don't want to stay signed in, but by default you have access to the Azure portal. There are other console also you can go and check it. I think apps.microsoft.com, or there are many other online sites which you can use for verifying your credentials. I can just click on sign in and this will take the credentials from my login here, and I can also okay, use them. So sign in with GitHub, and I can just use the same credential here. This application. Okay, so there is one more portal, this portal, but yeah, so here I will show you for Azure for now. So they will not have access to any of the services. They will just have access only to log into the system, and you have to provide permissions based on the job role that they are doing, whether they are visual administrator or they are storage admin or database admin. Based on that, you can start giving them access. So that is where the role-based access control comes into play. I will explain how the role-based access control works. And you can also invite some of the guest users here. For example, if I want to invite an external user and I don't want to create something with the domain that I am maintaining, you can also go and provide the email here. So let's say I want to invite someone with the Gmail ID, and okay, I can also send an invitation. Okay, so here is the link. Okay, so it's not apps dot, it is myapplications.microsoft.com. So if I go here, I can also try and enter that here. So it's myapps.microsoft.com or myapplications.microsoft.com. So here is where you can get access to all the applications and stuff that you want to provide access to. So let me review and create it. And you can also invite the guest users so they can use their Gmail ID password to log into Azure portal. So you can also have the users created on Microsoft Entra ID, or you can also invite some of the external guest users based on their external domains. And even if you want to do bulk import, the bulk create, bulk invite options are also available. So for bulk create, it is pretty straightforward. They provide you a CSV file, and if I want to just edit it and then get it created, so you can also get that created using this template. It's pretty straightforward. So let's say I want to use this template. So it is asking for very minimal details. So there are multiple columns. So I can just go and say unverge, and maybe I can just say Cumberland. And I can also use some ID here. Okay, that is the domain I got here. Yeah. Okay, so I can use the same password. That shouldn't be a problem. Maybe I can use the one which they are generating for me. So if you want to block the sign-in, you can also block the sign-in, but I don't want to block the sign-in. So I mean, you can fill as many fields as you want, and the very first one, which are marked as required, is what is mandatory. Remaining is all optional. Now I can just directly go and import them. Just select the file, then you can verify what are the different users that are getting loaded up, and then you can submit it. So in the progress, you will see the status here. If you click on that, it will tell us like how many users are getting added and what is the rate success ratio of this. So you can see how many total requests, how many success. So two has been created, two of them are successful. So there is no errors reported. So you can come and check the bulk operation results and the logs here, and you can also go and check the detailed report information on whether the user's creation was successful and whether the object ID was successfully created. So you can just go and check that, and you can, if you have done a bulk import, you can also go and download the tasks and verify whether the bulk import options is done successfully. So even if you have an existing AD environment or different directory service, you can go and bring that LDF file or CSV file using the tools like CSVD or LDFD, and then export, and you can also import it here. So now you can check that there are additional users that are added like Converge and Cumberland, they are all here. And if you look at the difference, the Stan invited account is listed as guest account, whereas the other accounts are member account. The default account is listed as Microsoft account because this is a default account. When I go and subscribe for Microsoft Azure or any services, I just go and use this account. The very first account is called as a root account or Microsoft account whichever I have used for the initial creation. So now I can go and check which are the accounts that has been used for logging in and from where they are logging in, and all those detailed information will be available. So if I check here, all the sign-in logs could be identified. See, someone has logged into Azure portal using this using this particular Stan user, and from which IP they have logged in, from which location in Chennai they have logged in, and they have also logged into my applications portal using the same ID and from this location. So you can see like what are the different sign-in attempts, and even if there is an interruption and there is a failure also, even those logs will get audited and stored here. So you'll get a detailed audit report for every single activities that you perform. For example, I have added a couple of users using bulk management, right? I've added Unverge and Cumberland, and before that I have invited a guest user. Like those are all completely available under the audit log. So any activities you perform under Microsoft Entra ID, it gets captured under audit log. Any login, sign-in access, or sign-in failures or interruption can be found in sign-in logs, and the details of the bulk operations can be found here. And even you can go and recover the deleted users if they are not if the deleted users are less than 30 days. Okay, so users are permanently deleted automatically 30 days after they are deleted. So if I'm deleting it now, So it will go and be there on the deleted option. You can just go and recover them if in case if it is lesser than 30 days, or else you can just go and get the restore fixed. Okay, so you can go and restore it if it is within the 30 days. Okay, so I can just go and bulk restore also if there are multiple users. So now it should come back here. So you can also do a password reset, or you can also go and allow the self-service password reset. If you have the premium licenses, you can also go and allow individual users to register applications, and they can also get added to security groups, and they can also get access to Microsoft Entra Admin Center. See, for example, I told you about the Microsoft Entra domain services, right? So, for example, let's say I want to give specific access for specific users. Let's say I've got Stan user, right, which is already logged in. So let me go to the Stan user, and what I will do is I will make him a member of a particular concept like Azure Active Directory administrators, AAD administrators, right? Azure Active Directory Domain Services Administrator. So I'm giving that privileges to manage Azure Active Directory. So that is now assigned. And even if you want to assign some specific application, you can also go and assign some application. So domain controller services is added here. And similarly, if you want to add some specific registered application, you can also give permission. So now if I go to this console, so earlier I did not, I mean, just now it popped up, right? So he can now manage the domain controller related services on Microsoft Entra domain services from his application itself. So whatever application you want to add for individual users, so whatever the application you have registered in your Microsoft Entra, you can give them permission and it will automatically get started, added up here. So this is the Stan user. So if you look at here on the rightmost, you can see that this is logged in as the Stan. Okay, so that's where I'm getting only this permission. Okay, now coming, okay, here it is. Okay, so I'm logged in as Stan at scalable Stan. Okay, so for him, like this is what it is. So if I remove that, then automatically his permission should go away. Let me show you. I will remove this permission membership. Okay, refresh. So application also should vanish. So here also it should go away now. So it will go in some time. So there is a catch. Okay, so if I re-log in, then that Act Domain Controller services will also be gone away. So there are certain licenses you can apply. So if your organization has purchased P1 or P2 licenses, you can go and apply those licenses for individual users, and you can also provide individual access to the particular account. So I will explain about the role-based access control shortly. And before that, you can also create groups if you want. If you want to have some specific groups as per your business unit or department, you can also go and create a new group here, or you can also bulk import a group. So there are two categories. If you want to use the group for Microsoft 365 related services like Teams or Exchange or SharePoint online services, you can go and create Microsoft 365 type of group. But if you're going to use it for Azure management, you can also create it as security group. I can just say this is mainly for my let's say Azure VM admins, or I can say admins for Azure VM, and I can just go and assign someone owner who can manage the membership, and who can act as a point of contact. If I want to make changes to that stuff, you can just go and do it. So here I will just select someone. Let's say I want to add and I can just give them permission. Select it, create it. Now, if I want to provide permissions for individual users, generally it's not a best practice to go and give permissions to individual user. Instead, you can go and give permission to the groups, and you can also configure dynamic groups. So dynamic groups is a way of automatically, if someone is getting added to a particular city, or if they are getting added to a particular location or particular department, so they will automatically get created as a group member. Okay, so dynamic group is also supported in Microsoft Entra. So manual group is what we did, and then you also have the dynamic grouping based on some criteria filter. It will get automatically added. So all the logs, access reviews which are pending for that group could be found out here. There are many different bulk operation logs and audit logs that are available. And yeah. So this is how you can just create users and groups. So users are available in three variant. One you can. Okay, so you can have Entra ID users which are created on Microsoft Entra ID. You can also create guest accounts. You can also have directly synchronized account. So I'll show you how to play around with the directory synchronized account. So for which you have to have a domain controller on your premises, and that domain controller we have to install Entra ID Connect, and through Entra ID Connect you can synchronize and replicate the users from your on-premises to Microsoft Entra ID. So I'll also show how to do that. Okay, how to do the synchronization from on-premises domain controller to the cloud to the Microsoft Entra ID version. Now, okay. So we saw these two options already. We will see this option shortly. And groups also, you have two options. Security groups. Security groups are mainly for accessing Azure and those shared resources and services. Whereas M365 group is mainly for the collaboration opportunities like creating and providing access for shared mailbox, calendars, files, SharePoint files, sites. Okay, so this is for this thing. Okay, so now let me show you how to use the security groups to provide permission on specific services and access. So this is what we call it as role-based access control. Based on their role, you can just go and give them permission. You come here. So we are moving on to the second part. Okay, first part is identity, where you go and create users and stuff. Now we are talking about access management, which is the role-based access control. So based on individual role, individual job responsibilities, we can go and have the role-based access control created. So they call it as RBAC, role-based access control. So generally, many of the enterprise organizations, they go and create a RASI matrix. So responsibility matrix will be created based on the job role and based on each job level, what kind of responsibilities they have, whether they have access to create VM, database, or app services, and based on their job role, they will be assigned the specific permissions, so roles and responsibility matrix. So we call it as responsible, acknowledged, consulted, and informed RACA matrix will be created for each and every activity, like who does the patching, who does the monitoring, who changes the metrics, who's responsible for capacity planning, and all those things. Complete list of end-to-end activities and tasks will be listed in the RACI matrix, and you can provide permission based on the job level. So it depends on organization to organization. So the role-based access control or the fine-grained access management system can be used for providing permissions at various levels. So you can provide access at the management group level, or you can give access at the individual subscription level, or you can also give permission at the resource group level, or you can also give permission at the individual resource level also. So it depends on where exactly you want to give permission, and that's how you can control this stuff. So the very first thing you need to understand is the role definition. Role definition is where you go and define the set of permissions that we can do. Okay, so there are many different built-in roles that are available that are native in Azure platform, and you can also go and create custom roles. based on the specific requirement. So this is set of permissions, right? I'll show you how to create the role definition and how to get them assigned. Okay. Go here. So I don't think I have any VMs here. We can create one because anyways we need to have one domain controller for seeing the demo for Entra ID Connect. I will create something and Windows domain controller 001. You can choose whatever operating system, 2019 or 2022, both are fine. So I can give some credentials. Okay. So I will review and create. I'll show you how exactly to provide the permission for these resources, what we are creating. I think there are certain storage account already there, right? I can in fact show that, but yeah, let me also use a couple of different roles. So if I go to my ID here, and if I go and search for virtual machine, it should not show anything as of now because this scan account does not have access to any of the resources as of now. Even for storage account also, it should not show any services here. It's like pretty plain here for now. So in order to provide the access, I have to go to the entire subscription. Also, I can give him access, or else I can give him access at the resource group level, or I can give him access at the management group level, or even at the resource level. So for every single console, you will have something called access control IAM option. This is where you go and assign the permissions and control what they could access and what they cannot access. So for now, if I want to check my access, I can just go and check what Stan as an individual user has got access to. If you look at here, there are multiple IDs. I can just select Stan and he doesn't have any role assignment and he doesn't have any permission at all. Okay, and if I want to give him permission, I can just first go to the specific resource group. Let's say there are certain resources in Stan production, this one, right? So within that, there are certain resources that are there, and I can just show you this. So for now, I don't have access to this resources. I can go and search for it here. So it doesn't show me that resource group at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give access to that particular entire resource group. So that way he will gain access to the list of services here. I can also show you the current access permission. This is the one. So currently it doesn't have any role assignment and no permission as of now. Okay, so I can just close this and you can also view my access. If you're already logged in with that ID, it will show what kind of access you have. So you have to first define the role assignment, what kind of job function they belong to, and then what is that they're going to do. So let's say I have these things. Okay, in general, these are all the basic things that you can see in any system that you go. Okay, so if, for example, if you are working with file permissions or if you're working with Linux file system permissions, you know that there are three categories, right? Read, write, and execute. Right. Similarly, in Azure Cloud or Microsoft Entra, also you have the same thing. So you have the owner, you have the contributor, and you have the reader. Okay, I will relate it so that way you can understand it easily. If you are working with file permissions, you'll have the same option, right? It will show you options for read only or modify permission or full control. So these are the things that you generally see in Windows. But if you're going for Linux, it will show you read, write, and execute permission. So that is what you give, right? So same thing. So reader and then contributor can modify, who can write, right? Owner is something who can have full control, including the execution and see, these are the three basic fundamental permissions that we use in any system, right? Linux or Windows or any authentication system. So these three will be available as a general category by default. But for now, I want to give him access only to specific service. So there are many different built-in services or built-in roles that are available. But if you want to create something custom, you can also go and um, create a custom role. For now, let's see if there are any custom role. Yeah, there are certain custom roles which I have created during my practice earlier. Okay, so I can also show you how to create one. You can go and create one more custom role here. And while creating the custom role, this is where you go and assign the permissions, assign what you want that particular role to perform. So let's say I'm creating something like Azure VM admin, and so you can create something. I mean, you can clone an existing role if there is a similar role. You can clone an existing role, or if you want to create it from scratch, you want to select the permissions, assign the scope, and do something. You can also do it. Or if you want, if you have some existing JSON template, you can also start with the JSON template. So I think I might have some role which I can utilize. Let me check if there is something called virtual machine or yeah, virtual machine contributor or virtual machine administrator, right? So this is pretty much similar to what I'm looking at as an Azure VM admin. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reduce some access within that. Let's say I don't want to give him a load balancer definition. I don't want to give him, and I don't want him to log in or get the network details. So whatever the details that I don't want, I can just go and ignore it. If I want to exclude some permission or include some permission, I can also go and add and exclude. So I can also assign the permission to the entire subscription or to a specific resource group. So if I go to the assignable scopes here, it will show me the management group. It will show me the subscriptions in my management group, and it will show me the list of resource groups. So you can assign it at whatever level you want, resource group level or subscription level or management group level, and even at the resource level also you can go and assign this IAM. So now I'm creating this particular permission, and I'm just creating a role now. So role will have the role definition, what kind of privileges and stuff. The next step is to assign that role to someone, right? So roles we have created. Now we have to assign that role to someone. You can either assign that to a particular individual user or a group, but a group is the better way of doing the role assignment. So now I have to select the specific role that I've created. So let's say I've created Azure VM admin, right? So I can just select this job function or role and then click on next. Here I can go and add the user or group or service principal. I can just go and select the specific individuals or the group. So let's say I want to search for the Stan account. This is the one. I can add individual user, or I can also go and select the group. I think I created a group called actually, yeah, or something, right? I created some group, Azure VM admin group. Okay, so I can also add a group or an individual user. I'm just selecting both of them for now. So you can add either user or group, but the best practice is to create a group and then give permission to a group whenever you are assigning a role. Okay, now I have assigned that role to that individual user, like Stan or Azure, whoever is part of the Azure VM admins group. They will have the privileges to manage the Azure virtual machine. Now I go and check the access for Stan. It should show me some credentials now, unlike the earlier thing. See, I'm assigned with Azure VM admin level of resource role permission. At which level? At this resource group level, at this resource level. Okay, so that's what it is mentioning. And if I have assigned it at one more level higher, it will show where exactly this is getting inherited or from where exactly the permissions are flowing in. Now I can go to that account here. I can just go and search for that resource group now. I should see the resource groups, which was not visible earlier. Okay, it will take some time, maybe a minute or two. Maybe I can just go to the virtual machine for now and then see if I'm able to see that VM. Okay, let me try to refresh or one more time log in. Ideally, I don't have to log in. Yeah, see, I have to refresh. It is showing me the VM here. And even if I go to the storage account, I should start seeing the storage account. So there are no storage account created. I think I've deleted all of them, but I can see that I'm logged in here. But okay, yeah, I have not given access to the storage account because I've just given access to manage the virtual machines and so on and so on. Okay, and even if I go to the resource group, I should be able to see only that particular resources which has been created specific to the VM alone because I've not given them full access. So if I want to give him much better access, I can give you something different. I can just say go to the subscription and then go to this subscription level, and then go to the access control. So I can go and do role assignment. So this time I'm going to assign him a better privilege to see the resource groups, storage account and so on. I can just give him reader role. A reader role can just go and see all the resources. That should be fine for now. And I can just select the individual users of the group. I can just say individual user or this one, and then click on next. Video assign. So now if I go, I should be able to see all the different resources in my account. So I go to resource group, I give refresh. So give it some time. It should, yeah, see, I can see all the resource groups now, and within that resource group, I'm able to see all the different resources which are there. So I have the reader permission, but I cannot make any modifications. Let's say I want to change this application security group, or I think application security group is part of the virtual machine. So let's say I want to delete this one. Okay, it says I don't have the authorization to do it. That is the exact message I was looking for. Authorization failed because he doesn't have the privileges. He has just got the reader permission. If he has got the owner permission, then he should be able to make a lot of changes there. So if you want to change that, or if you want to give him better privileges, you can go to that ID here, and then from here you can just go and check out what kind of permissions he has got and assign a better permission there. Okay, so currently it has got one group membership, so he is a member of Azure VM admin. I can just go one step back here, and then just go to the access control, and then remove that assignment for now, and then re-add the assignment. So currently is part of the reader group here, right? So I can just go and delete it, or else I can also change it, right? So I can go to the role, owner, owner is here. Click on next. So this time I will give it to the group. Okay, that is the best practice, right? I should not stick to the user. Select it. Click on next. Okay, next. You can also give them some condition. Okay, whether I want to give them all the roles or fewer roles, I can also restrict it. There are some options. Okay, now I can just go to my console here, give it a refresh. Now he should be able to do all the things. It is taking its time to apply the permission from reader to owner. Okay, let's wait, then check here whether the permission has got inherited. Okay, so I think I've also done some restriction at various level. I can also go and remove any other restriction that he has got. I think there is one more restriction that I have applied here. So here also I have done some role assignment. So stamps this, I can just delete these assignments. Okay, so coming back now, I can just search for the permission. So you can search for the permission at any level, right? For example, if I want to search it at this resource group level, I can also go and search for the access for that individual ID. Now it should show that the permissions are flowing from, inheriting from the subscription level, that he has got full access to manage all the resources, and this is coming from the subscription level. So that means he should have access now. I mean, this refresh is what is needed. Okay, give it some time and then let's. Okay, it is doing some backend activities, so wait for some time and we will be able to list the resource, and we should be able to do the activities that he is forward. Let me go to that storage account. It is taking its own time. Let it come back. So meanwhile, what I can do is I will log into this VM and then create Windows Server AD for the demo that we want to do for Microsoft Entra ID, Entra ID Connect, right? I can copy the public IP address. I will log into this VM. So now I'm going for the third option, which is the directory synchronized users. Let it quickly reset. Credential handle. Let it complete, and I'll log in and perform that. Okay, let it come online. I will also try to do something here. Did I do any mistake there? So I think I've got all the privileges. Maybe I'll log out and log in. I mean, not really needed to log out and log in, but if there are issues that you're facing, like what I have faced, you can go and log out and log in, and of course, you can just now do whatever you want because you have got that full ownership. So, if you want to delete something, and it should work now. Earlier, the authorization was not there, but now I should be able to do the same level of work that I'm doing with the other root account. See, it is deleting. So that's how you can manage the role-based access control. So role-based access control is mainly to provide access to individuals based on their job role, and there are two options. There is a built-in role which you can use, and you can also create a custom role and you can assign it to a user account or group or a service account. So I already explained about the three different general roles that are available in your account, and that are owner, contributor and reader. Like reader will be just read only, contributor is read plus write, and owner is full access. Okay, let me talk about policy after the break. Okay, we'll talk about the role-based access control. So what we did is we created a role-based definition, and based on their job level, we can go and give them backup operator or virtual machine administrator or user account administrator. You can just give them a specific role definition, and that role definition you have to assign it to a particular individual. The next step is assigning that. So first thing is you have to define the role, and the second step is you have to assign it to a particular group or a particular individual user, and at a particular scope level, whether you are giving permission at the resource group level or subscription level or the single individual resource level, you can do it. So there are three steps. First, create a service principal or security principal. It can be user or group or service account. And after that, you go and create a role definition, and you have to map these two things, which individual users or group will have what level of activities to perform. That is what they call it as assignment of the roles, assigning the roles, the role assignment, and at what level, whether it is at the hierarchical level, which level they are assigning it. So that's what we saw as a practical. So there are two different things. Okay, one, you can go and create a Microsoft Entra role, or you can also use the Azure Ad Hoc role. These are two different things. So if you go to Microsoft Entra console here, okay, you will see a lot of different roles that are there in the Microsoft Entra ID. So this is mainly for giving permissions to your Teams, SharePoint, Exchange. So this is for all the application, okay, all the Microsoft 365 different things like Microsoft 365 Backup, Intune Administrator, Kaizala Administrator. So this is for the complete Microsoft online services like SharePoint, Teams, Windows 365, and the virtual visits and so on. So this role is different, whereas within Azure you will see a set of roles. So Azure RBAC roles is different, and it is used only for providing access to Azure resources, whereas Azure AD roles, the Microsoft Entra roles, are for providing access to the Microsoft Entra services. Like it can be for your Microsoft 365 administration or the Microsoft Graph or Intune or different services, but this is mainly for Microsoft Azure specific activities. Okay, so this is something which we have already discussed. So any questions from anyone on the identities creation and assigning the permissions, role-based access control?
No, it's fine.
Fine, right? Okay, great. So now I will log into that VM, and then we will perform that Entra ID Connect, where we can synchronize the on-premises identities to Microsoft Entra ID. And you can also create Azure Active Directory domain services that can act as a Microsoft Entra domain services that can be used for synchronizing what you have on your Microsoft Entra ID, and you can also use it as a PaaS offering. So for that PaaS offering, you have to go and create Microsoft Entra domain services. This is the one. So where you have the platform as a service option. Okay, so you cannot create a manager because I'm logged in as Stan account. I have to go here. Okay, Entra domain services. So I can create a domain here, managed thing. This is a option where you have option for seamless sign-in and all those traditional features like domain join of your computers, laptops, printers, through policy, LDAP, Kerberos, NTLM authentication. If you want to use all these things and if you don't want to have the servers managed by you, then this is the best option. Okay, I can just show you that also. You can have a demo on that. So I can just go and, so there are two licenses, standard, enterprise and premium. So based on that, you will get the different features and benefits. So if I go and look at here, I can choose what level of resources I want. So if I'm going for standard, so standard will not give me multiple replicas. It will give only domain controller. And then if I have enterprise, you can get multiple replicas created, and you can also configure trust relationship with external domain. And there are some more benefits here. So let's say options. So this is very costly. Okay, so in a way that it provides you multiple different options. See here, each instance it refers to a couple of domain controllers, two domain controllers, and they will be creating it across multiple availability zone, and that way you get a lot of high availability and redundancy. So there is one more feature that you have to be aware of. Okay, let me create and show you this. I will go with the enterprise option. That should be fine. And click on next. So here it will go and create our own network. That is where you can have your client machines, and you can create it within that subnet. If you want to create your own virtual network and subnet, you can also go and create it with your own private IP address space. That's fine. And here is where you go and define what you want to do, like whom you want to add and whom you want to give permissions and so on. So here let me give permission to a couple of that members here. So add members, and then go and search for Azure AD TC thing, and then I can give access for my ID, this one, and then select it. You can either give group or individual users. So that's the reason I added two of them. So thing, and then I can add the Azure AD DCA also. Okay, so that way you can also do a bulk operation on this console by giving multiple users. So here, if I want to synchronize everything, right, from my on-premises, from my Entra ID, if I want to get all those identities synchronized here, I can go and select what I want to do. I can also do some filtering if I want to exclude and include specific identities. I can also do it. If you want some backward compatibility, you can go and select the NTLM version 1 or the transport layer security version 1.2. So if you want to have some backward compatibility and password synchronization from your on-premises, you can enable the features and settings here. But if you don't want these things, you can ignore it. But for now, let me just keep it on that screen, because I want to create some users here, and then I want to synchronize using Microsoft Entra ID Connect. I will show you the three-step process. I'll go and add the role here. So this is where I'm going to add the Active Directory Domain Services role. So there are many different AD related roles that I was talking about. So the one which we are referring to is the Active Directory Domain Services, where we go and create users and groups and manage those objects, and it will provide single sign-on process. The remaining Active Directory we don't have to worry about for now. It's not relevant to our topic now. So I can just go and install this role. So once after I install this role, this particular system will become a domain controller after the ADDS role is installed. You can also go and disable the firewall, so that way there is no restriction. You can also go and reduce that enhanced security for the internet browser. I want to download that Entra ID Connect. So you can either go to that Microsoft Entra console, and then from here you can also download download that Entra ID Connect, or you can directly go to the browser and synchronize it. So here is where you have that link. You can just go and copy that link and then download that tool. So there are multiple different tools now available like Cloud Sync and Entra Connect Sync and so on. So I'm going with Entra Connect Cloud Sync option. So let me go and download that tool once after this is done. Maybe downloading the tool is fine. You can keep it ready. But anyway, there will be a restart that will be done after installing the Active Directory Domain Services tool. I will just download the tool. Okay, it's taking some time. Okay, I'm not sure if I have changed some network settings yesterday. I can go and verify that. Network security, network. Okay, and check the DNS. Okay, so this is not that right. So that's the reason the DNS resolution is not happening. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So you can download based on the language that you need, and then you can keep it ready. So meanwhile, I can just go and check where we are with the installation. Okay, so installation is succeeded. So we need to promote this server as a domain controller. So I can create it as a new domain or new forest. Okay, I want to create it as a new forest. And if you already have an existing forest, you can add a new domain and connect to that existing forest also. So I will just go with this is the directory services restore mode password, which you will use when you want to do some authoritative restore of your Active Directory object. Okay, this will be the name that will be listed in the drop down. If you want to change the NetBIOS name for the domain login or the drop down, you can also change something. I will just leave that default name, which was part of my domain name. So either while logging in, you can give @ of domain name or netbios / the username. So let it install. It will take a couple of minutes for this to get installed. Okay, done. So after it is installed, promoted to domain controller, it will get restarted. And after the restart, we will log in with that domain credential and we will install that AD Connect tool, post which we will try to synchronize the credentials from. the domain controller to the cloud platform. So in order to do the synchronization from the cloud platform on Entra ID, I need to have a credential with enterprise admin permissions, right? So here, so I can use the same ID. Okay, so the stan ID can be used for that also, for which I have to assign a role. So that role has to be global administrator. Okay, go and edit or provide the permission. So let me go to that overview. So add some assignment. So here I can go and search for global administrator, which is the maximum privileges that can help you to manage all the aspects of Microsoft Entra ID and Microsoft services. So I'm giving him the Microsoft global administrator privilege, and that is the ID that I can use for even the Entra ID synchronization from the on-premises. So I think the VM has got restarted now. So we can just go and log in back again and then check whether the domain controller has got promoted. Okay, perfect. Now you can see that it shows up this domain name, the entire fully qualified domain name with the host name dot domain name. Earlier, the certificate was just listing the server name alone, host name alone, because it was not a domain controller earlier. Now, while logging in, it will create a new profile because it is a domain credential now. So that's what is happening currently. It is waiting for the group policy client to load, and then it will bring in all the properties of Active Directory on this particular system. So this server is no more a normal server. It is a domain controller. It is going to manage the lot of Active Directory related objects. So let this log in. Once after it is logged in, I will install the Entra ID Connect, and we can try to replicate the users from your on-premises domain controller to Microsoft Entra ID. And from Microsoft Entra ID, I will also show you how to synchronize it to Microsoft Entra domain services. So we'll say two different synchronization process. So that way you will know the end-to-end options that are available. Okay, so let it load in. I mean, let it get logged in. I don't want to see that continuously. So now, meanwhile, I am in the screen, so I can just click on next anytime once that is done. So let it be on the screen and get the validation done. Okay, so it is ready for creation. So in order to manage this Microsoft Entra domain services, we need to have a client machine. I can use the same domain controller to manage it. So in order to show some difference, I will go and create some separate client operating system. It can be Windows client OS or Windows Server OS. You just need to install Active Directory administration tools, the Active Directory users and computers, the administrative center, right? So that is what you need to install. So whichever operating system that supports it, you can just go and install it. So I can just create it as Windows AD DS Management 01, like that. Okay, and I can just go and get it created. Should be fine. Yes, I'll make sure the keyboard here. Yeah. So I can just go and allow the port numbers. So for management, you don't have to really allow the ports. It's the AD server side, we have to allow the ports. I can get it created on the AD subnet. That will be better. Oh, where exactly that is. I think here only, but I think there is a separate subnet, gateway subnet. Let me check one step back and then see what are the networks available. I thought it created a separate network is what I thought. Oh, looks like it did not. Okay, yeah. So I mean, we have not created it yet, right? So it is still in the new stage. We have not created the VNet and subnet. We have not just clicked on create. So we'll do that and then create the VM for now. I don't know why it is stuck in this console. Let me try to log in again. 74, yes. So I can try to change that domain name. So this is coming from my local slash stand again. This is the password. And then okay. It should take 5 minutes, but it's not beyond that. So I've never seen a domain controller getting stuck there. Okay, fine. Because the remote is okay, that's fine. Okay, the login on remote servers, desktop services is busy. Okay, that's fine. So that was the issue. Okay, so now it's logged in. So let me just go to that downloaded content and then start installing that to synchronize what you have on my local machine. So before that, you can also go and create some users if you want. Okay, so I can just go to downloads. I have this tool here. I can install it and then start doing the replication. Before I do that, I can just go to my Active Directory users and computers to create some couple of users. Okay, let it load. I can just create it on my command prompt also if it is taking some time. I will say net user anto slash add and then just give something and then net user. I can use a couple of IDs. Fine, I've just created a couple of identities on my on-premises. Okay, and I should start seeing them here. So there is one, there is another one here. Okay, this is fine for now. And so if I want to create one more group, I can also do that. I can just create a group and then add some users to it. I can just call it as VAE users and then add a couple of users to that group, which should also be fine. I can just go to the members and then try to add people and one actor, right? I can just add that also. Fine. So I've created a group just for our testing purpose. Now I'm going to check the Entra ID Connect installation menu. What are the different options that it is going to provide me? Okay, I've just double clicked on this and now in order to okay, I think there is already a console that is there in progress. Okay, so it says the installation request TLS, but it was unable on server. Please refer to the document. Okay, so looks like on Windows 2019 there is a additional step that is needed. So this is not needed in 2022. Okay, so let me go and check what exact steps I have to follow. This is fine. I am just trying to run the latest version of Edge setup that will upgrade my Microsoft Edge. But the step that they asked me to do is to do the enforcement TLS. Okay, got to it's not enabled on your server. Will enable update the registry. So I have to go and do this registry changes. If they give me some command or stuff, I can just go and do it. Okay, let me just try this. like I have to do multiple steps to do this. I can also save this in a reg file and do it, or else, yeah, I think it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 only, right? Okay, let me do it quickly. So this is only needed if you are using a older version of Windows Server. But for newer version, you don't have to do this. So go to your HK local machine, and then under the software, okay, let me minimize this. The software, we have this wow 6433, okay, 6432, and then within that, Microsoft .NET framework. Yeah, it says .NET in this folder, and then within that they are saying some specific files, version 4.0, this one, and they want these two values: system default, enable this system default TLS version. They're asking us to create it or what? After you update the regime, must restart the Windows server. Okay, fine. Let's try a PowerShell script. Then see if it works. So this is pretty straightforward, right? It adds registry key. Okay, so anyways, we have to add the registry key, it seems. Yeah, we'll try and run this. And if it works, that's well and good. Or else we can go and execute manually. Okay, done. So let's go and check on the registry whether it made some changes there. Okay, looks like there is some changes that has been made. Okay, let me try to run it again and then see if it works now. If it doesn't work, then I have to restart it. I mean, it mentioned we have to restart in the document. Okay, looks like it is loading now. Okay, so you have to restart it for sure. Okay, let me do this. Restart quickly. So if you are using Windows Server 2022, you don't have to do that. So it is available in the latest version. Only in older 2019, you have to do those steps in order to have the transport layer security version enabled. So what I'm trying to achieve now is trying to use this Entra Connect. I have a domain controller on my on-premises, and from this domain controller, this is Windows Server Active Directory domain controller. I'm using Microsoft Entra Connect to connect and then replicate all the users from my on-premises to a solution called Microsoft Entra ID. Okay, and from here I can just replicate using, synchronize using the other tool, and I can take it to Microsoft Entra domain services. That is also something I will show you shortly. Okay, so Entra domain services. Yeah, this is the step that we are trying to achieve first, and then from here I can go to the next step. So that wizard is kept ready. If I just create, it will start replicating all the users from Microsoft Entra ID to. So this is the screen. From the screen, if I'm replicating all, then that means whatever I got from the on-premises plus the cloud Microsoft Entra ID, all those identities will get synchronized to this particular solution. Okay, first we will complete one and then go to the next one. Okay, I'll try to open up the Azure AD Connect. Let's see if it works now. Okay, still it says maybe the configuration that I did does not work through. So I'll go and add those registry settings on this system. So we are already at 6:30. We have not taken a break. We'll take a break and then pull the TLS version 1.2, and after that I'm able to get the screen. And then there are two options. One, you can go and do the customized synchronization where you have some specific requirements, or else like you have this entire AD forest skill up stand, that is my domain, right? And if I want to synchronize all the users, I can just go and do it. So there are two credentials that are needed to establish this connectivity from my on-premises to Microsoft Entra. So first I have to provide the Microsoft Entra hybrid identity administrator, which should have a global administrator credential, or it can also have a hybrid identity administrator in Microsoft Entra ID. So I already given global administrator, so that should be fine. So I can just give the credential. Okay, and that is where I have that information. So I can just copy this. So it will go and verify whether this credential has got a permission to do it. Okay, now it will ask for the details. So I can go and enter the password. Now it is verifying against my Azure login. Okay, I can enter the password, sign in, and if it has the credential, it will allow me to connect to that online Microsoft Entra services. So it is connecting me to the Microsoft Online to verify the credential. It is retrieving the stuff, and it will check whether the same domain is available. Okay, and if not, it will throw some error. We can also fix that issue. I will show you how to do that. So I'm giving the credentials of the local domain Active Directory domain services in enterprise admin credential. So on the on-premises, you need to have the enterprise admin rights on your AD domain services. Okay, so that is the minimum that is needed. So maybe we have yeah. So it picked up. Now it is going to start the synchronization process, and it will send all the objects on my on-premises to the Microsoft Entra that we have on the cloud. So here on the cloud platform, you can go and check it here. So go and check the Entra ID. As of now, the replication has not started, so you will not see those IDs. Like there are two IDs, right? Anto and Deepan. That ID will not be here as of now. The replication has just started. It is configuring the synchronization. Once the synchronization service has started, it will start sending the objects. I will show you where to check the logs and how to get it fixed. So sometimes you might have some conflict of domain, that the domain name that you're using on the premises and the cloud is very little different. So what you can do is you can go to your not the DS site. There is this I think DS site. Let's see only. Just go to Active Directory. cancel trust. So you can go here, and then if there are some domains that are there, I can just go to the properties and get some of the domain name added here. Okay, not the trust here. You have to go to the screen, then go to the properties, add the suffix here. So for example, if I want to add something like stand.ga and there are any other ICD.gq, so whatever additional stuffs that are there on the public cloud side, if I want to have the same prefix after the user IDs are created, I can just add the UPN suffixes. So that once after I add these UPN suffix, I will be able to see those on the premises also. So if I go and create something new, I will see those options also. So after the synchronization, there won't be any conflict. So if you have multiple domains, you can go and add as many as you want and get them created. Okay, that's what I was trying to say, because sometimes you might have .local or .internal on the premises, and if you want to have the same destination domain, you can go and add the UPN suffix, and that way you can fix it. Okay, so it is creating the Microsoft Entra ID for the synchronization purpose. So after this is created, you can see that there is a new service account that gets created here. See, this is the service account that just got created. For each and every domain controller, it will create a unique user principal name, and this is the domain controller name on the premises. So using this ID, it will start the synchronization. Okay, so that service account, we don't have to create it. It will automatically, the Microsoft Entra Connect Sync wizard will get that created automatically. Now it is configuring and trying to do all the synchronization rules and updates. Okay, it's saving. It is also installing the Microsoft Entra Connect Health Agent. Okay, now you can start seeing some changes here. Okay, it's going on still. So maybe like I will also start the other side from the Microsoft Entra ID to Entra Domain Services. I will also create this. So this will also go and create Entra Domain Services domain controller, and also it will replicate from both cloud as well as from the on-premises. So let's see. I've just defined that also. It will take some time. So now here it is saying us configuration is complete, and we can log in with the on-premises credential to Azure or Microsoft 365 or Intune using the account that we have created on the premises. And you can also go and enable the recycle bin, AD recycle bin on this particular forest using this step-by-step mechanism. So that way, if something gets into conflict and if there is some error, you can go and restore for any accidental deletion. So there is one more option you can see here. There is a synchronization service tool which you can run again for checking what kind of operation has happened. So you can just go and check the details here. You can see what are the different objects that got updated and got replicated. If you click on that, you can see these are the IDs that got replicated. Okay, there is an ID called Anto, Deepan, and there is some more account which got replicated. So this will happen continuously in a time frame, and if you want to change the synchronization time interval, there is a PowerShell command you can run and change the interval. So it will happen every 30 minutes by default, and if you want to change it based on your organization new account creation frequency, you can also go and change it. Right now, I could see the log and all the details saying that the accounts are created. If I refresh, I should see the IDs from the on-premises. See this Deepan and Anto. It says these are all on-premises synchronization accounts. So these are all from the on-premise, and then this one is from the on-premise. So remaining all were created from within the cloud. These are all cloud created accounts. So this one was created for the service account for the Microsoft Entra Connect Sync tool to replicate the objects, and these are the accounts that has got created from on-premise. Even you can go and check the groups here. There should be one UAE group that should have got created, and that group should have yeah, so UAE users, and that group should have members as 2 members, which are end-to-end people, right? So this is also intact. This has come from the on-premises. So if you just go and look at that details, it will show you that it is coming from the on-premises Windows Server 80. The source is Windows Server 80. So this is how you can replicate the objects from on-premises, either the users or groups, and the stuffs can be done. And yeah, pretty much you can do it. And now we have also initiated a synchronization from the Entra ID to Entra domain services. I'll also log into this Entra ID domain services, and will show you how that works. Let me go to the virtual machine. I'll create a separate VM for that. So I will call it as Windows AD domain services client 01. Okay, so I need a Windows machine. It can be Windows Server or it can be Windows Client. Both should be okay. This is fine. Give the credential. Okay, so I can go and create this in the same network where the Active Directory domain services systems are. Okay, so I can also assign a public IP so that um, it gets created. So let me review and create. So I'm creating a member server. This can be used for connecting to my Azure Microsoft Entra domain services, and I can go and verify whether all those objects that I created on Microsoft Entra ID and on premises were intact. Okay, well, it will take some time, and I'll show you how that works. Meanwhile, while this VM is getting created and while the Microsoft Entra domain services is getting created, we will go and discuss another topic. Okay, any questions on IAM and how we are managing the Entra ID Connect synchronization?
It's fine.
Okay, fine. Now let me help you with understanding a very interesting topic called policy. Through policy, also you can control and achieve compliance. So this is mainly a governance tool for your organization to achieve specific compliance for a specific industry vertical. There are a lot of regulatory standards that are available per se, like based on the industry, based on the region where you are, and then there are certain standards for the country that this particular applications belong to. So we might have to go and enforce those policies. So there are multiple ways to enforce these policies. One is through, okay, let me just show you this. So Azure policy is mainly to create and assign and manage policies, and you can also restrict the users to disallow creating certain higher cost resources, or you can also disallow them from creating certain resources in a particular location, and you can also enforce that specific tags and values has to be there, and also you can enable mandatory backup or mandatory DR for some of the workloads. So this way you can enforce that there are certain restrictions or certain organization standards should be applicable on the resources that we create, and automatically the Azure policy will go and scan all the systems resources that you have created, and it will tell us like whether they are as per the standard or whether it is non-compliant, and it will give us the report. So first thing, you can go and create an initiative definition, and there are a lot of initiative definitions that are already available as a package, and you can also use the package, or you can also give a try to create your own policy definitions, and then you can go and apply the overall package. So let's get started, and I will show you the demo first, and then I will also show you how to apply the complete package. Okay, for now, let's say I want to assign some policy. So there are a lot of definitions that are pre-built here. You can also create your own policy definition. So let's say I want to restrict specific definitions. Let me just go and see. Okay, there are some initiatives and policies, and there are a lot of categories that are available. So I can go and restrict specific area. Let's say I want to filter the categories by virtual machines or desktop virtualization and so on. So okay, we image filter virtual machines. Okay, storage is there. Yeah, storage provider is there. I will apply that. So here there are a lot of definitions that are available. So it is saying that you can go and audit the access for your storage, or you can have a lot of different things. So okay, so the category is here. Okay, let me just check for, okay, let's say check for some specific rule or policy. Let me search storage. Okay, so it says that storage account should have the specified minimum TLS. That's okay. Or else enable logging storage account containing the containers. So there are hundreds of policies that are pre-created. So very rarely we might have to create something out of the box. Okay, so I can just go and check. Should disable public access. Okay, so this is one policy that I can enforce. So there should not be any storage account which has got the public network access. So I can assign it. You can assign it on a particular scope. You can assign it on a particular subscription or management group, or even you can assign it on a specific resource group. So I'm going to apply it on the entire subscription and then review and create. So it will give me this message error, and if someone is creating a storage account without disabling the public access. Okay, you can also go and filter in. Let's see if I have that storage SKU. Okay, so it says like, okay, there is the option. Oh, okay, I have to search for category compute, not virtual machine. So virtual machine is a service product, right? So category should have to be compute. So for example, if I want to allow only specific virtual machine SKUs to be created, I can just go and assign this policy. But before assigning this policy, you can also go and define which ones you want to assign. So let's go and try that. Okay, so here I will say that I want to have specific categories. You can also add some specific names here. I can just say stan allowed virtual machine SKU, so that way you will see the right error with the name. So here I can just select which are the ones I can allow. Okay, these are the allowed virtual machine SKU, right? Okay, so I will just go and allow only, let's say B1. I'm just allowing only this B1, yes, and then maybe some basic A series, basic A1. So these are the two systems that I'm allowing. Only two virtual machine stock keeping unit I'm allowing, and you can just give whatever non-compliance message you want to mention. So your organization allows you to create only A1 and B1 series VMs. Okay, let me create. So earlier I was able to create some D series and high series VMs, but now if I go and try create the virtual machines, let's give it a try. Okay, see, earlier I was able to create the D2 version version 3 and all. Now let's see if mostly it should not even allow for me to select the instance type. Okay, so that's the expectation I have. Okay, let's try it. When I go and select the instance type, it should not allow me to go and select that other ones. Let's say I want to select D280 series and then see what happens. Okay, I'm expecting some error here. Okay, let's try. The policy should have to be in effect already. Let's try. So it should throw the error now at least. If not, and the basic same, it should. Yeah. So it says like basics required information is missing. So let's see what is the error, where exactly the problem is. So it says the region East Rivers is highlighted. Okay. Okay, this is fine. And I don't want any infrastructure redundancy. Okay, let me just select this type and then see what happens. Okay, it says validation failed. It should throw me the error. See, resource stan winvm01 was disallowed by the policy. Policy name is stan allowed virtual machine SKU. Your organization allows you to create only A1 and B1 series VM. So this is how your organization can also enforce the restriction of creating any non sizes or non SKUs or systems which is not as per your standard. So you can just go and restrict all these stuffs across your compute, network, storage, and you can have a better policy control across your Azure landscape. So even if I go and create a storage account, you should also have similar errors. So if I go and create a virtual machine with B1 series, it should not have any error because it is understandable, right? So because you have allowed A1 and B1, so here it should not give us any error. So stan B1 VM01, and this is all fine. I don't want to have anything on the availability zone. Here I can go and choose the B1 series VM. Like in my account, even I don't have those basic series. Okay, so this is not allowing me to create the basic ones. Okay, but yeah, if I have the options to create it, let me close these filters and then see if it works. Okay, just try to refresh. Wait a second. Give it a try. Yeah. Back. All these things. Okay. This is also on. Okay, so now it is showing, right? Okay. So there was a filter for NVMe, so that's the reason it was not there. So if I'm selecting B1, yes, there should not be any error. I should be able to give credential and create that VM without any problem because my policy allows me to create A1 yes and B1 yes. I made a mistake on the credential. Have to order a new keyboard. So this time there should not be any error. The validation should succeed and it should allow me to create it. Yeah, the validation is fast and I will be able to create because it is B1 series VM. Yeah, so earlier there was an error. So similarly, I can go and check the other policy which I have applied, the storage account. So if I create a storage account which is not, which I am allowing for public access, it should throw me error. Let me just do this and then storage public 001. So this should be fine. Anything is okay. So these are all fine. So here, this is all fine. Enable storage account keys, allow anonymous access, container. fine. This is where enable public access from all network. Okay, I'm enabling all public access. So this is the problem that it should throw error for me, and I will not have any soft delete option. I will just uncheck those and then find the time. Let me review and create it and then see what happens. Okay, so enable public access. Storage key. Log on limits access enable. Okay, public access endpoint is also enabled for all networks. Okay, it is submitting. Let's see. So there are two options. One, you can go and use it as a report mode, and the other one, you can also use it as an audit mode. Okay, let's see what we have created and then ensure that we have created in the right option. So there are a couple of policies here. So scan. Okay, so it shows that there are some non-compliant resources. So it is only reporting here. So if I go to this, it is saying me there are certain storage accounts which are non-compliant. So it says that okay, these are the two domain controllers which are non-compliant against my standard. So it says these machines which are already existing in my account, they are not A1 and B1. Okay, so they are some other series. That is the details it is showing here. So because our policy says it should be A1 and B1, but here the resources B series, right? So that's the reason it's saying non-compliant. It should be only A1 and B1, but whatever we have created, it's B series. The current allowed values are these two, but then the current value is this. So it has picked up that. Even it should show me the storage account also. So there is one non-compliant resource. Yeah, so it says that there is a resource with public access. So it says that okay, so it says the storage account has got public network access. So it is enabled for now. We have to go and disable it, and we can come and check that also. So there are two modes. One, you can just go and enable it as audit mode, and the other one you can just go and edit it as restrict mode. Okay, so here security networking, and I want to disable access from the public network. Okay, and then save it. So I can just go and check the policy again, and after some time it should show all the storage accounts are compliant in this category. Let's wait for that. It will take some time. Okay, it says the resources are compliant. Now I can just go and refresh it. The policy evaluation will take some time, and eventually this will change. Okay, now okay, there are another policy also I have enforced earlier, like Azure backup should have to be enabled on all the resources. So we have not enabled on a couple of VMs, so that is the reason it is showing this. So the other option is there is one more assignment. Okay, assignment is a group of definitions or group of policies that you can assign as an initiative. So some organization might ask us to adhere with let's say PCI or HIPAA or SOC or many different FedRAMP, and there are many different initiatives that are there across different industry vertical, right? So if you want to enforce the FedRAMP solution, or if you want to enforce PCI or NIST, so there are all these regulatory compliance standards are there. So these are all initiatives in a way that it has got multiple different policies part of each and every category. So if your organization has to achieve CIS, you can also go and enable this and assign it as an initiative. So like maybe for healthcare, they will ask for high trust or HIPAA. For some of the different industry vertical, different locations like GDPR can be enforced. So there are many different country-based policies like New Zealand ISM or Canada Federal PPPM or SOC control too. So you can go and enable that initiative. See, the initiatives will have multiple different policies. So if I go and show you that, so there are, okay, let me go to definitions. And here I can show you the initiative. So these are the policy definitions. I can show you some initiative definitions. I can just go and select some specific initiative I want to. Okay, this is where I want to apply. So here I can go and create initiative parameter. I can apply, okay, this is on my own, right? I want you to see that complete package. So assign an initiative. So here let me select something. Let's say I want to apply SOC standard. I can go and find out by searching it. If you look at the category and the amount of packages that I have got, so this is the SOC 2 type 2. I can add it. So this will go and enforce whatever the SOC 2 type 2 standard is enforcing us to do. Okay, it will have a lot of policies part of that particular initiative, and you can just apply it. So if there are certain parameters that are mismatching, it will go and throw us the error. So it is asking us what are the different things that you want to allow. So it is asking us what allowed registry or registry. You can just go and restrict what kind of size, what kind of CPU that you want to assign, and you can also assign that initiative. So some organization, they will ask you to go and apply individual policies, and some organization, they will ask you to go and apply the initiatives. So for example, these are the initiatives, and okay, so there are nothing assigned as of now. I can also show you the category here. So these are all from service wise, cancel, policy type, these are all custom built in. So I can filter the initiatives and show you how it looks like. As of now, there are many different initiatives here. So if you look at here, each initiative will have more than one policy. Okay, so the FedRAMP and all, it is having 650 policies to apply. Similarly, NL, FedRAMP High and all, it is very stringent regulatory compliance policy. 719 policies are there. Even the National Institute of Security Standard, they also have 720 policies which will be enforced. So these are all initiatives which are group of policies that it will be enforced. Okay, high trust has got 600, and if you want to apply this, just click on that, and then you can say assign initiative, and then select which level you want to assign, and you can assign it. Some organization, they might want to duplicate the definition and then customize some of the policies to align with their organization standard. So they might be 80% HIPAA standard or 90% ISO standard, or they might get 95% CAS. So there will be some deviation based on the organization requirement. You can go and duplicate the definition, customize the policies and parameters. You can just go and edit and remove whichever policies you don't want while you're copying it, and you can apply that. So Azure Policy is a very powerful tool that you can use for applying some of the policies to ensure that the administrators are not creating certain things which is of non-standard, and you can ensure compliance against all the resources. So there are two categories. One is the policy, individual policy, and you can also go and assign the initiative as per the regional requirement or industry standard requirement, and you can get that assignment done. So as I told you, assignments can be done at all the levels, at the management group level, subscription level, resource group level, and then you can enforce what you can create and what cannot be created. Okay, at the end, once after you apply, it will show you the compliance status of that particular thing. For example, if I applied PCI compliance, it will show me like how much I'm compliant with. Currently, out of this three rules, I'm having certain non-compliant resources. But if you're applying the initiatives, it will clearly show me what percentage we are achieving, where exactly the gap are. See, out of the 162 policy, 159 we are as per the compliance. Only 3 of them are non-compliant, and if I fix these 3 non-compliant resources, I will be able to achieve 100% compliance. So that is how the compliance reporting dashboard will show you at the individual policy level as well as the initiative level also. So, and you can also get the details around why it is non-compliant by clicking that link. So any questions on Azure Policy? Azure Policy and Azure Role-Based Access Control. Maybe this is also going on in the backend, the replication. Hopefully it should.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Fine, right? Okay. So let me go to the resource. I will log into this VM and then keep all the AD administrative center and stuff ready so that I can show you how to connect to Microsoft Entra domain services and then validate the replication status. Okay, so this is how sometimes we might end up with errors, or this is not allowing us to initiate the remote connection, right? Simple reason is the network security group might have restrictions because I have created that VM in the network which Microsoft is going to manage, because Microsoft is going to take care of the infrastructure and the platform, because this is Azure Microsoft Entra domain services, right, where we don't have access to the OS layer and the system. So if you look at this security group that is attached to the subnet, it will have restriction for allowing only the corporate network from Microsoft to allow access for remote desktop. So if I want to overrule that, I can also add one more inbound rule, so which can be of lower number. I can just say I want to allow RDP for those system from, I have to give lower number priority. I will just say 100 and then allow RDP from external systems also, then add it. So there is a default role that allow RDP is only allowed from Microsoft corporate support team network. So that is the reason it is not allowing us to log into that system directly. If we are creating some machines under Microsoft created network and subnet, these are the challenges you might see. I will log into my account. Now it should allow RDP. Perfect, it is allowing now, right? So that's the problem. So you have to go and check this network security group if there is any challenge at the network level. Okay, I'm able to log into the client now. I will also show you how to join this client machine to that Microsoft Entra domain services domain also. That is also possible. So if you want to join machines to the domain and do some configuration settings, that is also feasible. I will show you that options as well. So first I will install the Active Directory Administrative Center so that the tools, the client gets installed. The Active Directory users and computers and the Active Directory Administrative Center will be available if I install that. Okay, let me go to add roles under the server manager and then install the feature of AD Administrative Center. I think it will automatically load the server manager anyways. Let it load. Okay, so here is where you have to go and click on add roles to add those features. It is collecting the inventory, let it do. So just disable these things. Okay, so go to the feature screen and then you can add the client tools. So somewhere here it will be there with the remote server administration tool. I want to manage the Active Directory from the client side. So I'm adding the AD Active Directory domain services related options. So it is going to add that feature. So this is going to install the client, okay, only the feature. I'm not installing the server role. I'm going to install the client module like AD Administrative Center, which will give us the option to log into Active Directory users and computers, sites and services, and then domains and trust and so on. So let this get created. I will also show you how to join this machine to the domain that we are creating here. Let's see what is the status. There are some tasks that are still running. Okay, there is some deployment going on. Hopefully that is, yeah, so it is Microsoft domain services. The Entra domain services is still getting created. So it should be ready in some time. So once it is created, we can test it out. I don't think we need to restart this to install the feature. Feature doesn't need any restart. So go and check the same here under the Microsoft Entra domain services. Here also you will see the status, whether it is deploying or already deployed. Okay, it says deployment complete, at least for the network security group. Still at the overall level, it is still deploying. Maybe in a minute or two, it should get completed. Okay, this is a managed domain option which we are seeing, the second option here. So the PaaS option. This is called as managed domain, where the domain alone can be managed by the customer, whereas the operating system, the Active Directory, all those things are managed by Microsoft Azure team. Let's see, the deployment is still going on. View the health. So you should start seeing a couple of domain controller IP address here. You can check it in two areas. One, you can go to your virtual network, and in that virtual network you can see that whether two domain controllers has got created, because we have selected standard or premium option. So in the connected devices we should see two systems. Yeah, see there are two systems which is created by Microsoft team. One is this and the other one is this. See, we have created an in-between client machine, so that's the reason it took that in between IP address. So there are two domain controllers that are getting created for redundancy in two different availability zone. So almost like then there is some progress going on, so we can be rest assured that it will get created in some time. They are working on the additional domain controller now. So that's how it works, right? First it will create a primary domain controller, and once the primary domain controller is created and the role is installed, like how we did in the on-premises, it will install that Active Directory domain services role, and it will add as a member server, or it will add it to the domain and promote it as an additional domain controller. So those are the steps that are going on behind the scenes. Microsoft is doing that orchestration for us. So once the managed domain is completely ready, it will be available for us to connect and manage remotely. So let me just wait for this to connect. And I can also check whether the DNS IP addresses are pointing to the right system. It should be that two domain controllers. If it is not pointing out automatically, I can also go and change it. See, it is currently pointing out to the global Microsoft DNS server. Ideally, it has to be pointing to this two domain controllers. The IP address 10.3.0.4 and 10.3.0.6. So these are the two domain controllers that Microsoft has created for us. So we have to use that. I can either do it at the network interface level, or I can just apply it at the entire network level. For now, I can just go and apply it for my specific network interface, the client machine which I'm planning to join to the Microsoft Entra domain services. This is the machine. I can go here and then try to edit the DNS settings. So here I can go and add a custom DNS server and then apply it. So that way, if I'm trying to join to the domain, it will go to the right DNS server. Now I can just go and say ipconfig/renew, and then I should start seeing the those two domain controllers. Perfect. Okay, we are all set now. Maybe if I just do ns lookup, I should be able to get that domain. See, it is resolving, and I can also try to get that domain details. Perfect. It is resolving to this two servers. So we are almost there. So once after my final confirmation from the Microsoft Entra domain services, I should be able to go and join this domain. Sorry, join this machine to this particular domain. Let us give it a try. Why not? Okay, so we can give it a try while we are waiting, because it is saying deploying. Maybe it is just working on the second additional domain controller. Since the primary domain controller is already ready, it might allow us, but we never know. Let's give it a try. Just go and select my computer, and then let me try to join to that domain. Okay, request is going. Let's see. I can use that credential. Okay, so it is still going on. Currently it says it's logged out. But yeah, let's give it a minute and then try to see. Or else we can also try and create some other account in Entra ID. Maybe I will use this one. Reset the password, because I don't know what password. Okay, this is the on-premises one, right? Okay. So I can also do that, or else let me create one quickly. Same design. This pending. This is okay. I can copy it. It should be available for me to copy the password. Okay, so let me also give them some credentials. So this is a member account, and that's fine. So here under the assignment, I will add him to the global administrator or Azure Active Directory DC administrators group. And I can also give him some better role. Okay, and then give him cricket. The first one is more than sufficient, but I've just added something more for him to get better privileges. So I will just try his ID, because the very first time when we try this, it will ask us to reset the password. So that is the reason I'm giving it a try to log in first. So we already logged in with one account. Let me log out that. Sign in with a different account. Go and give the credentials here. Okay, so that's what I was expecting. So it will generally ask for a password reset. I will just change only one letter here. Okay, just the number has been changed, but yeah, that's fine. Ask later. Now we can try and use that account. I mean, we will wait for the Microsoft Entra domain services to be fully ready, because it might not allow us to do any login at that moment. Yeah, so it's still deploying. The second machine is getting ready. Meanwhile, I will just give it a try. Let's see if that works. Perfect. Okay, so it has worked. So welcome to scalablestand.ga domain. And now this machine has been connected to that particular managed domain. So it is still getting created. The reason it is saying deploying, it is deploying the second domain controller, okay, the additional domain controller, which is which might not be needed for now. So it is the primary domain controller is already ready and servicing for connecting the systems. So this time, what I will do is I will log in as a domain admin, like as a member of the domain. So instead of SAN, I can just use that username and password which I have got. So you can use any of them. Even you can use the other username and password which is on the top, but I can just use this one because I know this works. Okay, and then connect to the system using the domain account instead of the local account. So it should get the profile. See, I can see this is part of the domain now. This is a member server, part of the domain. And of course, it should have to create the profile for us. Yeah, it is logging in as design. It's loaded. Now, once after we are inside that, we can go to the Active Directory, users and computers, sites and services, and other stuff to see what is there on that particular domain. Okay, so we are expecting that the system should have the objects from the on-premises domain controller and also the objects from Microsoft Entra. Okay, so that is what we are expecting and going to check now. So let me go and open up the console, the dsa.msc, and this will open up the Microsoft Azure, sorry, not Azure, Active Directory users and computers. Okay, it has opened up already, I think. So here you can go, and then here you will have a separate OU for your synchronized users. So here Active Directory Azure AD DC. So it was, it used to have Azure AD DC name earlier, but now they have rebranded it as Microsoft Entra Domain Services. So within that, we should see all the users that were created. See, Anto, Unverge, Deepan, and Azure VM level 1 security group that we created. And even we should also see the ones that we created from the on-premises, right? The UAE users, and you can also go and check whether those two group are part of that. Yeah, Anto and Deepan is there. So you can see Usain account, Kamran account, and all those things, right? So this has got replicated from on-premises as well as Microsoft Entra, because these accounts have created it in Microsoft Entra, Usain account, and Deepan and Anto was created in the on-premises domain controller. So this Microsoft Entra domain services can now use these identities replicated from Microsoft Entra as well as from the Windows Server Active Directory domain controllers. So any application access or anything that you want to provide access to any resources, you can use these identities and groups to provide permission. Okay, so that's how you can have the end-to-end setup done. So we have seen this now. So the end-to-end flow is complete. So you can migrate, replicate from Windows Server
Okay.
ID to Entra ID and from Entra ID to Entra DS. Yeah, go ahead if there's a question. What's that question?
No. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
is
good.
it? Okay, okay. Fine. So this is also giving me admin portal and allowing me to manage the users and groups, because this is part of my um, uh, role that I've got, right? The global administrator role. So I can also go and assign some licenses, or I can go and do a reset password for these. I can go and add user. So it has got separate console for Microsoft 365 administration. So admin.microsoft console access is also there for me. And even if I want to manage the domain controllers, the Microsoft Entra domain controllers, I can also manage it from here. So that's the thing. So we have discussed the identity and access management. We talked about Microsoft Entra domain services. We also saw how to use the Microsoft Entra Connect to replicate the users from on-premises to the cloud. And we have also seen how to create users, how to create guest users, how to import the bulk users. We also saw how to enable role-based access control. And now maybe I will also show you a couple of more information around the replication that we did, right? see here, we are on this console. So while running the console earlier, I just went ahead with express replication, which means like that we did not make any major changes. But in some requirement, you might have to configure some specific updates. So let's say I want to only replicate specific devices or specific OU or specific options. I can go and customize the synchronization also. Some organization will say I don't want all the content to be replicated. I want only limited content to be replicated. So you can also do it. I will show you how to get that done. So customized requirement might come from your organization. So in such cases, if you want to replicate only specific domain or specific OU part of your forest, you can also replicate it here. So when you're synchronizing it, so there are options to do that. Okay, so it is giving me the option here. If I go and select, so it will select so which identity to, okay, this is all fine. So next screen is the option where I get the filter. Okay, see here I can go and replicate the complete domain, or if I have some OU created, I can just go and select specific OU. I can just uncheck all these things. I can just say only users or only groups has to be replicated, or if there are any multiple domains here, I can also go and choose the specific domain to be replicated. So that those options are also there. You can select specific domain within your forest or specific organization unit within your Active Directory and replicate only those. And this is the beautiful option where you have the options to go and enable password write back. For example, I have migrated few users, right? I have migrated the users like Deepan and Anto. If I'm resetting the password here, let's say, and these password is not only for the cloud, and even what I can do is I can allow the Entra Connect Sync tool to write back the password changes that is made on the Microsoft Entra ID side. Even if there is a group membership changes, I can also allow that to come back to the on-premises also. So that options are already available here. And by default, the replication only replicates the password hash. Okay, the passwords are not getting stored here. See, for example, this ID might have some password, but in Microsoft Entra, it is not storing the actual password credential. Instead, it will generate a hash value for your password and it will only store the password hash. But if you want to replicate, or if you want the Microsoft Entra to come and get authenticated from your on-premises, you can also enforce that. If you want to do that, you can just uncheck this, and automatically what it will do is it will come and validate for every login. The request will come to your Microsoft Windows Server Active Directory, and then this will authenticate and it will allow for login. Currently, there is a password that is stored in your local on-premises, and there is a hash value equivalent that is getting stored in your Microsoft Entra ID. So currently, the user login will not go to your on-premises because there is an equivalent hash password value that is there that will be validated against, and it will allow login from within the Microsoft Entra ID itself. In some cases, customers don't want even the hash value also to be stored there. You can uncheck this option. If you are unchecking this option, the login might slightly get delayed because the password hashes are not getting stored in Microsoft Entra ID, and for each and every authentication, the request will be passed on to your on-premises domain controller, and they have to get the confirmation and you have to log in. So those kind of things you can configure as an optional feature here, and you can just do it. Not just this, there are many more options which you can configure. If you go to the first screen, you can also configure staging, or you can also change the user sign-in option if you want to have specific domain or specific enforcement. You can also do it. Okay, there are few more options like this which you can customize on your on-premises. So some organization, they might want you to use pass-through authentication. This is what I was talking about, right? So I don't want Microsoft Entra ID to authenticate. Instead, I want the pass-through authentication should have to be done. Pass-through authentication means all the authentication will be passed from the Entra ID to on-premises Active Directory domain controllers. So all the users authentication will happen only from your Windows Server Active Directory, from the on-premises identity infrastructure. For a very, very secure account, they want this to be done. They don't want the hash to be stored in Microsoft Entra. See, the hash is not very simple to decrypt. Okay, it is a very tough password. Okay, the hash value is very stringent. It is 256 plus characters. So definitely, like it is not very easy to hack those hash values. But still, some organization they don't want the hash value to be stored for your password on the Microsoft Entra ID, and for them, they will generally ask us to route the password authentication to your on-premises. Some organization they will also deploy Active Directory Federation services, or they will use Ping Federate. So that way they will also have a separate one more federation server to have a single sign-on feature for your organization. So there are organizations which have implemented all these three options, but 80 to 90% of the organization they will go for password hash synchronization. The hash value equivalent for your password will get stored in Microsoft Entra ID, and that will get us to get authenticated into the system. Okay, so these were the topics that we had for discussion. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask now. And even if you want to try out the labs and ask me questions, I'm still here for some more time. And feel free to
Yeah, no, it's
take my help.
fine. I'll do it sometime others.